and welcome to Film Forum, the second show of this brand new season. I'm Steve Markos. With me is Aron Siegel.
Hi, guys.
Reviewing movies tonight. We're still trying to get caught up from last week.
We're here.
You say something interesting out there?
Yeah, that person that's that's going channel surfing right now. This is the station to stay on.
Yeah.
No, don't touch that.
Got a brand new show here. Anyway, let's get on
something
with the show.
to eat after we do the reviews.
Kidding around here? All right, like I said, we're coming to you live here on 14th Street at People TV. We got a brand new show. We're going to tell you about some films. However, as far as I'm concerned, this is a good week to stay home and watch videos. There's some pitiful movies coming out this week and last week.
Absolutely. I was really disappointed.
All right, and if any of you were with us last week, you know that we gave you our top 10 worst films of 1993, and we promised you a list of our top 10 favorites. This show, Aron, what are your top 10 favorite shows of 1993?
Top 10 favorite films from 1993. Number 10 was Dave. It stars Kevin Kline, and it's actually on pay-per-view this month. It's about Kevin Kline as a mistaken identity for Bill Mitchell, the president at the time. Great film, great political comedy. Number 9 was The Manhattan Murder Mystery. Woody Allen and Diane Keaton reunite after several years of separation for this film. It's a great film. Number 8 was Heart and Souls with Robert Downey Jr. and Charles Grodin. Number 7, Wayne's World 2, the sequel. Wayne Campbell and Garth Algar are back to give you much more riotous fun. Number 6 was Grumpy Old Men. We've got Walter Matthau and Jack Lemmon together again after so many years of being separated since The Odd Couple. We've got great comedy here. Number 5 is Three Musketeers. We've got an all-star cast in this film. A really good remake of the classic, the Dumas classic. Number 4, we've got Mrs. Doubtfire. That's with Robin Williams, still in the top 10 after several weeks being released during Thanksgiving. Great film. Number 3, The Fugitive, Tommy Lee Jones and Harrison Ford. Really great mystery thriller type film. Number 2, Malice. We've got Alec Baldwin and Nicole Kidman in this film. It's a great mystery thriller as well. And my number 1 film for 1993 was Schindler's List, directed by Steven Spielberg and starring Liam Neeson.
All right, sounds great. Those are 10 to check out. I'm going to tell you my favorite 10 here, and I kind of tend to like the films that no one's heard of. I like the little artsy type films. Number 10, The Vanishing with Kiefer Sutherland. This movie put the hook in me. I couldn't forget it for a while. It's better than the original Dutch film. It's on video. Number 9, Judgment Night with Emilio Estevez. It's sort of a lost in the big city at nighttime with the gangsters type film. Good thriller. Number 8, Jurassic Park, specifically for the special effects. The story, you know, it's all right, but the special effects are out of this world. And if you can still catch it at a movie theater, I would recommend that instead of watching it on video. Number 7, Rudy. This is a story of an underachiever who tries to play football at Notre Dame. Great male tearjerker, sort of along the lines of Hoosiers. Number 6, Watch It. Nobody's ever heard of this one, but you need to watch it. I like it because it's about 3 bachelors who refuse to grow up. I could relate to that. Number 5, Menace to Society. It's sort of a hard-driving urban thriller type film of what it's like to grow up on the wrong side of the neighborhood. And it's the first-time movie by the Hughes brothers, and I was really surprised how well it was done, being their first film. Number 4, This Boy's Life with Robert De Niro and Ellen Barker. And Leonardo DiCaprio, I believe is his name, who's starring in Gilbert Grape as well, which will be coming out fairly soon. Number 3, Matinee, John Goodman movie where he's a schlock movie producer who comes to town in the 1960s with his movie Man. Loved it. Nobody really went to see that one. Number 2, Strictly Ballroom, an Australian dancing comedy. This received a Golden Globe nomination for Best Musical Comedy. Did not win, lost out to Mrs. Doubtfire. Came out at the beginning of last year. Again, no one's heard of it. Check it out when it comes on video. And number 1, Schindler's List, also my favorite. This just won the Golden Globe for Best Picture, Director, and Screenplay, and I suspect it'll win most of the Academy Awards as well, hopefully.
Let's hope Steven Spielberg will break his curse this year.
Finally. Anyway, those are about 19 movies worth watching. Only Schindler's List ended up on both. Let's get started. We're going to try to review movies. Coming out, tomorrow? Blink. Aron, why don't you tell us about that?
Okay. Blink is a murder mystery. A serial killer is stalking several different people, and Detective John Hallstrom can't figure out the connection between them. Aidan Quinn plays Detective John Holstrom, and he finds an eyewitness to the crime. Well, kind of an eyewitness. She's just had her eyes transplanted from a donor, and so her eyes aren't working quite as well as they could be, so she's not really able to see much of anything, and they're not really sure whether or not she really did see the serial killer leaving the apartment of the girl that was murdered above her, or that lived in the apartment above her. Anyway, Madeline Stowe plays Emma Brody. She is the eyewitness. What we have here now is a scene from Blink with Madeline Stowe and Aidan Quinn.
Until 6 weeks ago, yes.
You were blind completely up until 6 weeks ago?
Yes.
Okay. Well, let me get this straight. I'm a little bit confused here. You heard some suspicious noises upstairs, and you hear this guy coming down the stairs. You look out, and you spoke to him. That was last night, but you didn't see it till this morning?
That's right, yeah.
So what is that? I mean, your eyes are driving the train, and your brain's the caboose. It hasn't caught up yet?
I guess you could say that, yeah.
So your eyes are having a delayed reaction to reality?
I don't know how to explain this. It's something that happens with some people who've had this kind of surgery, but we're a little off track. I came here to tell you that I think something's really gone wrong.
Oh, okay, it's all right. Okay.
Thank you.
How long were you blind?
Are there any cops around here who work, or do you all just sit around and drink coffee?
Ooh.
Okay, that's a scene from Blink, which opens tomorrow. It stars Madeline Stowe and Aidan Quinn. It was directed by Michael Apted.
Hey, I'm going to start off with a pun. I think I've seen this one before.
Well, I think it's a better version of Jennifer A.
I'll tell you, it's not really the blind witness version I'm talking about. It's the serial killer genre in general. I mean, I think they've just driven serial killer movies into the ground. Think about it. Besides Silence of the Lambs, and I think you like this one a little bit more than me. Besides this one and Silence of the Lambs, how many other serial killer movies are there that are worth watching? Not many.
I never really gave it much thought, but
Manhunter, a great movie that's better than Silence of the Lambs. That's all I can think of.
Oh, I didn't think Manhunter was better than Silence of the Lambs.
I love Manhunter.
I like Jonathan Demme's directing a lot better than Michael Mann's.
I love Michael Mann. I like that.
You like that MTV look to film.
But anyway, let's get on here with this film. I'm just sick of these serial killer movies. To me, serial killer movies are fill in the blanks type filmmaking. You know, you fill in the name of the cop, you fill in the name of the female love interest who the serial killer is after. You fill in the why the serial killer became a serial killer. I could even see it in parentheses. Think up craziest reason ever. You've seen the story.
But you know, then you're talking about murder mysteries and everything else. Every kind of thriller, every kind of suspenseful film is based on some sort of like motive like that. I mean, there's always some sort of crazy person.
Yeah.
Well, not always.
I'll tell you what. You say thriller. I didn't even find this movie to be particularly thrilling, and it didn't even have any violence and gore in it. And if you're going to go waste your time at a forgettable serial killer movie, there's not any violence and gore. I mean, you know, what's the world coming to here? If you can't get a cheap thrill out of it, you've really wasted your time at this film.
Oh, I think that the violence and gore, I didn't think it was necessary. I like this film.
I didn't. I just wonder why these people did this film. To me, mundane. They ought to stamp mundane on it. It's just like about any other serial killer.
No, see, because I couldn't stand Jennifer A.
I like Jennifer A.
See, I didn't like Jennifer A. But for the
I'm not talking about. I'm just talking about serial killers. Just think of Night Moves and Deadpool and all these. They're all the same. There's nothing that makes them stand out. They're just mundane.
Night Moves, there was an interesting little point
I
to
don't
it.
know.
Anyway, I'm going to give this film 3.5 stars, Steve.
I'm going to go with 1.5. It's not a bad movie. You're not going to get up and walk out of the theater or anything like that. It's just when you're taking a date and spending $10 to $20. I think there's better films out there today. There's not many, but there's a few.
All right.
All right, let's
we're gonna take a phone
call.
right now.
Do we have that caller still?
Do we have the call?
No.
We've got our floor director shaking the phone thing here.
All right, they say no call. Sorry. You had to
Try
wait so
again.
long. Maybe
Okay.
try again. We're going to get on with our next film, which came out this Friday. It's called Intersection. Stars Richard Gere, Sharon Stone, and Lolita Davidovich. Make every move as if it was your last is the general theme behind Intersection, the story of Vince Eastman, an architect who is torn between his estranged wife and his new lover. Which woman does he really love? Well, I don't even think that Vince knows the answer to that one. Let's take a look at a scene from the film in which Vince is telling that his life with his wife was not that great.
House for the perfect couple. Tell you a secret. It wasn't so perfect. See you tomorrow. What you have now is perfect. You had a family. We weren't a family. We were a corporation with a kid. So, when the boys went off to college, Claire and I were going to travel the world, see all the museums. The Prado, Paris, Florence, India. There was a Piero della Francesca in a little church in Arezzo. The most beautiful thing in the world. I wanted to show it to her. Kept saying next year. Have this future, pal. Whatever you're gonna do, do it.
All right, and that's Intersection, what came out last Friday, again with Richard Gere and Sharon Stone. Aaron, this one put you to sleep or what?
Yes, I was bored to death with this film. Save your money. Believe me, save your money. I mean, this is
pleading. He's pleading.
The worst Sharon Stone, Richard Gere, and Lolita Davidovich film you've ever seen. Save your money.
I tell you what, I kind of
save your date's money. Don't even buy popcorn.
When I'm in a movie, sometimes that's not too good, I try to think up lines I'm going to open with. And a half hour into the film, I came up with the opening line was, you know, when you're a half hour into a movie and nothing remotely interesting has happened, the movie's into trouble. Well, that line I had to revise it because an hour and a half later, I had to say, when you're an hour and a half into a movie and nothing remotely interesting happens, you know the movie's in trouble. But then guess what? Something kind of remotely interesting happened at the very end. I did like the end, but to tell you the truth, after sitting there for an hour and a half of being bored, a good 15-minute ending with a little moral dilemma that kind of caught my interest is too little, way too late.
I agree 100% with you in this. This was just an awful film. It bored me to death. And I turned to the person I was sitting with, and I said, "Listen, I'm bored to death." And it's like I was hoping that something would happen anywhere in the film that just remotely interests me.
Well, it's all told in flashbacks. So you see him going. He's about to get in a car wreck, and it flashes back. It tells how he met his wife, how they became separated, how he met Olivia's new lover. And to tell you the truth, how he met his wife was boring. How they became separated was boring. When the two women finally meet each other, you expect some dynamite to go off.
Cat fight or something.
Instead, they just shake hands and say nice to meet you and go about their business.
I mean, I was expecting him to be cheating on his wife or cheating on his girlfriend by going back with his wife or something like that, and none of this happened.
I've heard neighborhood gossip more interesting than this. And I'll tell you what, you go back to the theme, live every moment as if it was your last. Well, if you go by that philosophy,
we just wasted several moments.
If you live by that philosophy, you don't want to waste your last moment watching Intersection. I'm going to go with a half star on this one.
I agree with you 100%. Half star.
Half star. All righty.
Save your money.
Let's get on with our top 10. Or do we still have our phone call?
We have a phone call?
All right.
She was there a minute ago. All right, we're going to take a look at the top 10. These are the films that you went to see this past weekend. These are the films that you spent money on. Okay? These aren't our ratings. At number 10, we've got The Air Up There. This is Disney's second installment of Cool Runnings.
Yes, and that's not in the national top 10. That's supplanted by Schindler's List.
It drops from 8 to number 10. At number 9, we've got Shadowlands. Anthony Hopkins and Deborah Winger remains at number 9 for the third week in a row.
Amazing.
Number 8 this week is Pelican Brief. Julia Roberts and Denzel Washington falls from number 5. It's the 7th week of release. At number 7 this week, we've got Iron Will. This is Disney's dog sled movie, and it drops one notch to fall at number 7. It's its third week of release. At number 6 this week, we have Grumpy Old Men. Walter Matthau and Jack Lemmon rises up from number 7 to number 6. It's the 6th week of release.
That's number 4 nationally.
Remaining in the top 5 at number 5 for the 6th week in a row, we have Tombstone. This has got Val Kilmer and Kurt Russell, a film which you hated, which I disagree because I liked.
I didn't lie, I just hated the casting.
The gunfight at the OK Corral. Anyway, number 4, Philadelphia, Tom Hanks and Denzel Washington. Falls for number 3 in its second week of release.
And that's number 1 nationally for the second week in a row nationally, so it's not doing quite as well here in Atlanta, which surprises me because you got a huge gay community here. I hear even outdoing San Francisco now.
Wow.
According to reports.
Okay, number 3 is House Party 3. Slipped by us, but we were able to finally go and see it. Falls from number 1 in its second week of release.
I'll tell you what, that was number 3 nationally. It dropped all the way to 10 in 1 week. And I'll just see why in a little bit.
Okay, number 2 this week, It's Your Fault, Intersection, debuts at number 2. It's probably going to drop way out of the top 10 next week after all these people
watch our
show. And at number 1, after slipping for 1 week, climbs back into the number 1 position is Mrs. Doubtfire. 10 weeks of release on that.
I don't think I've ever seen a movie at number 1 after 10 weeks. I mean, that's done about as good as anything I've ever seen. Even like Jurassic Park and that wasn't number 1 for that long.
That's true.
So anyway, we got a phone call finally. Caller, you're on the air.
Now the caller hung up, didn't she?
Oh, she's dialing something.
Hello, caller.
You hit redial there.
We'll wait for you to finish redial. There we are. Are you there? Caller? You were there? Oh, why can't we get this caller? Okay.
Let's just forget the phone calls for the night. Let's get on with our next film, 6 Degrees of Separation, which came out last Friday as well.
Okay. 6 Degrees of Separation stars Donald Sutherland, Stockard Channing, and Will Smith. Donald Sutherland plays Flan Kittredge, and he and his wife, played by Stockard Channing, are entertaining a prospective buyer for paintings in their apartment. And Will Smith's character comes to the door and interrupts them. He claims he's been mugged in the park, and they later find out that he's been going to school with their children up at college. He knows their children by the first names, and he claims to be Sidney Poitier's son. Cooks them dinner and proceeds to tell them tales about his life and his thesis, his term paper, which was one of the things that the mugger has taken from him. And why don't we just go to this scene here of 6 Degrees of Separation?
This nitwit Chapman, who shot John Lennon, said he did it because he wanted to draw the attention of the world to Catcher in the Rye. And the reading of this book would be his defense. Young Hinckley, the whiz kid who shot Reagan and his press secretary, said, if you want my defense, all you have to do is read Catcher in the Rye.
I haven't read it in years.
Well, I borrowed a copy from a young friend of mine because I wanted to see what she had underlined. And I read this book to find out why this touching, beautiful, sensitive story published in July 1951 had turned into this manifesto of hate. I started reading. It's exactly as I had remembered. Everybody's a phony. Page 2, my brother's in Hollywood being a prostitute. Page 3, what a phony slob his father was. Page 9, people never notice anything. Then on page 22, my hair stood up. Remember Holden Caulfield, the definitive, sensitive youth wearing his red hunter's cap? A deer hunter's cap? Like hell it is. I sort of closed one eye like I was taking aim at it. This is a people shooting hat. I shoot people in this hat.
Okay, that's a scene from 6 Degrees of Separation. Donald Sutherland, Stockard Channing, and Will Smith.
Tell you what, that was a good scene to show right there because that's kind of the general idea of the movie. It's a movie that presents you with information, and if you're a thinking person, you may find this movie to be adequately entertaining. Most other people will find it be completely boring. So if you found that clip to be interesting, you'll probably like the movie. If not, that's the type of movie it is. It's talkative.
I wanted to mention why they call it 6 Degrees of Separation, because later on Stockard Channing is talking to her daughter in the film, and she says that each person is 6 people away from knowing someone else. For instance, if you know somebody, or if you want to meet the president, you make 6 phone calls to the right people, and that person knows the president.
Yeah, and eventually you know everyone in the world. It's kind of like that theory that when you have sex with somebody, you've had sex with everybody they've slept with, and everybody they've slept with, and so on and so on. Which explains why I'm so tired. I had to get that joke in there.
Steve,
this movie is based. This movie is based on a play, and 9 times out of 10, movies based on play are talkative, so it's very important for the screenwriter and the director to make sure that conversations are interesting. To me, for the most part, they were interesting. There was some talkative moments, particularly in the scene we saw. But overall, fairly enjoyable. There's things I liked, things I didn't. The movie revolves around the Kittredges as they tell their story to their friends. They find out that their friends have been flim-flammed by the same guy. This guy's kind of a con man. And all the stories are intertwined.
He's kind of a con man, but he's not really.
He's not really a con man.
Because he's never stolen anything from any of these people.
No.
I mean, he's come into their homes, and he's made himself out to be Sidney Poitier's son. And nobody's really sure whether or not he's actually telling the truth.
Yeah, I don't think he's in it for the con because he only gets like $25 and $50, so he's not in it for the big time. But all the stories that they tell are intertwined. Like their friends tell kind of the same
Reminds
story.
me of that.
And that's where the title comes from, the 6 degrees, everything being kind of connected.
Right. It also reminds me of Alfred Hitchcock's film The Rope, where each scene kept on from the next scene. And that's kind of the way the editing is done in this. It's kind of confusing at first.
A friend of mine went to the play, and he said this was very identical to the play, which explains kind of the play-like feeling that this film gives you, which is something I didn't really care for. Another friend of mine went to it with me. He called it a 4-yawner, which means he yawned 4 times, and that's not good. So it all depends on what you think. I came out of the movie and really didn't know what to think about it. I had to sleep on it for a little while, and after the next day, I decided there's some things I liked. There's some things I didn't like. I didn't like the play-like qualities. I didn't like some of the talkativeness. I didn't like the psychological makeup of the Paul role, the Will Smith role, because it doesn't make sense. There were too many contradictions in him, and I don't think he was realistic. However, I did like the characters in general. I liked the performances, particularly Will Smith and Stockard Channing.
I think the performances were excellent.
Yeah, Stockard Channing is as marvelous as they say. I like the con man aspect of the movie because I like that, and I also like I said earlier, the way the stories intertwine. It was kind of neat, for lack of a better expression. I go with 2.5 stars.
I'm going to give this film 3.5 stars.
3.5 stars. We're coming out to 3 stars, a little bit above average. Like I said, that clip tells it all. If you thought that was going to bore you to death, don't go. Now we got a phone call, we believe. Caller, are you on the air? All right, go ahead.
If I could take my 6-year-old child to see Mrs. Doubtfire, because I've heard that it was a movie with adult situations, and I've heard that there was a Robin Williams, for instance, dressing up like a woman, and I don't know if this is appropriate for a small child, and maybe you could get some insight.
Oh,
it's done on a...
It's a great film for the family, because it discusses divorce in a realistic light, and it makes humor out of the situations. It's not any kind of perverted sexual undertones or perverted adult undertones. It's Robin Williams dresses up as a woman so he can spend more time with his children.
Yeah, because he's been banned from seeing them by the court, so he dresses up as a housekeeper so he can get in there to see them.
Okay, thank you.
So no, there's nothing
You're
wrong
quite
with
welcome.
it. You know, I think it was a PG rated. You know,
I believe so, PG-13 maybe.
Yeah, nothing that young kids won't like, or it should
And
offend
it's
them
especially
anyway.
good for divorced, for children from divorced families, because it does approach this from the right perspective.
All righty. Well, we'll get on with our next film. It's called House Party 3. It came out 2 Fridays ago. It's the 3rd movie in the House Party series. This time, Kid is getting married, and everybody seems to expect him to get all the booty he can before he gets his final ball and chain on him. Kid, however, no matter how many fine women he comes up against, is determined to remain faithful to his fiancée. The film ends with a big bachelor party thrown in his honor. Let's take a look at a scene from House Party 3.
Let's get it! Hey, Lucy! Look at that woman there. Lord have mercy.
It's so good to see you.
Come here, woman. Come over here. How you doing? You still crazy the best of all. And looking good, too, woman. Look like a bacon egg sandwich. What's up, kid? Boy, if you're the yellow version, you're peppy. Ain't Lucy? Damn. Boy, I miss your father.
So do I.
Damn, I wish he was here.
Me too, Uncle Vester.
Besides, he owe me $150.
Uncle Vester, you remember me?
Boy, remember you? Let me tell you. Last time, boy, I saw you, you was his size. And the last time, boy, I saw you, you was his size. And the last time I saw you, was a quarter pound of doodle in your drawers.
Hey, man, you just got here. Don't be sweating me like that.
Sweating you? Boy, I ain't began to sweat you. First thing tomorrow morning, we're going down to Elmo's barber shop. I'm gonna cut that Jamaican voodoo stuff off your head.
All right, that's the scene from House Party 3, and that is Uncle Vester, who is supposedly Robin Harris's brother from the first movie. Robin Harris in the first movie was really good. Beyond that, the movie was all right. This movie here is bad, and I'm not talking about hip-hop bad. I'm talking about bad as in awful, and I'm just not some dumb white boy who can't appreciate black pop culture because I was the only white person in the theater, and no one was laughing. Not me, not anyone else. These people look like they were watching Schindler's List. This movie is just not funny. It's not funny.
Well, I didn't think it was that bad. I didn't think it was that good. I mean, I wasn't the only white person in there. My date was also white, but it was. There were a couple of people laughing. I mean, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't great either. I've seen this story before in Bachelor Party, the Tom Hanks film. You know, it's a case of mistaken identities and different things like that. So what it is, it seems like a remake of Bachelor Party.
Yeah. Well, some people, I guess some women may claim it to be sexist. To me, it's just boys will be boys type film, and the major theme of this film is let's get some more booty.
Yeah.
And the thing that upset me about this film is the crowd I was with, and I'll make a statement here, it may sound racist, I don't know. It's not because it's the truth. I was in a theater, and I was the only white person there in the theater. And this movie has a lot of profanity, a lot of sexual situations, a lot of sexual innuendos. The 10-year-old kids that are in this movie pull an insurance scam. They cackle at the mail lady, tell her to get her booty over there. This is an R-rated film. And for an adult, this is just a bad R-rated film. But for kids, it's not meant for kids.
No, it's not.
I know the black community is concerned about their kids and the future of their generation. I come out of this movie, and I swear I came out of a Disney release. Over half the crowd was 13 years old and under. Some of them were 4 and 5 years old, and every one of them was with a parent. So if you want to point your finger about what's happening in the black community, you got to look at the irresponsible parenting there because it's ridiculous. And I hope that maybe some community leader or preacher sees the show here tonight and tells these people, look, you don't take your kids to R-rated films. These are for adults, not kindergartners. Okay. It's ridiculous. And it happens over and over in these R-rated films.
You can get off your soapbox now.
How many stars did you
give this film?
Half star for this crowd.
I'm going to give it 2.5 stars.
All right, we got another phone
We're
call.
Take this
Caller,
phone call.
Go ahead.
Yes, I was just curious as to how you could come up with a top 10 list of movies and not include The Age of Innocence.
Well, The Age of Innocence to me was a very well-made movie. In fact, it was an excellent.
The art direction
movie.
on this film was excellent. The actors were excellent, but the
story was kind of boring.
The story left you hanging, and it left us dissatisfied. There wasn't a proper catharsis to this film, and that's why we didn't come up in our top 10.
Y'all just can't get along without a serial killer.
No. Hey, now I had a friend.
Steve doesn't like serial killers.
How about Nightmare Before Christmas?
Aaron liked it. I'm not much of an animation fan.
But it wasn't good enough to make it into my top 10.
I'll tell you what, as far as top 10, it's only our opinion, so it's really hard to say, nothing's written in stone. It's just our opinions here.
And
I did have a girl who went to this movie who didn't like it because she felt that the characters in Age of Innocence were never really in love, and she didn't like that. So it's not just a male's point of view. She thought it was boring, too, and I thought she would love it.
All right. Thank you, caller.
But it was a great cinematic movie.
Okay. That's all the time that we have for this installment of Film Forum. Be with us next Tuesday at 7:30 here on Channel 12 in the city of Atlanta, People TV, where we'll have at least 2 new feature releases. We'll be doing a little bit more catch-up, and we'll probably have a guest involved in the film industry. That's next week, next Tuesday here on Film Forum. See you next Tuesday.